Let's go, Nanay.
Wendy, party of 2. Sam, party of 2. Oh my God. They're all the same seats.
Mag-video, gusto mo?
The other guy's name is Joe.
Oh, Joe.
Nanay, look.
Is this thing on? Yeah, it is. Everybody, my name's Ned. I'll be your driver for the next 3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours.
Yay!
Look at this guy. He's into it. That's awesome. Cheers to you. No, it only feels like it's 3 hours long. It's only 1 hour.
Okay. Thank you.
We do ask at this point you guys kind of stay in your seats, keep your hands in the boat when we're in the canals, and we do have life jackets and ponchos, although I don't think we'll need either one. Well, welcome aboard. This is the Winter Park Scenic Boat Tour. We're starting out here on Lake Osceola. We'll be going to another lake, Lake Virginia. Along the way, I'll show you some of the highlights of Winter Park. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. But this is what we call a beautiful day in the neighborhood. You guys know that guy, right? Fred Rogers, yeah? He attended Rollins College, probably their most famous graduate from Rollins College. But he had a collegiate home on this lake. I say collegiate home because it was bought by his parents for him and his younger sister to use while they attended Rollins. So we'll see that on the second part of the tour up here. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Whee! Oh my gosh, that feels amazing. I love it out here. That's beautiful. We're coming up on our first point of interest. There's a wooded lot up here on the right. But let me do a quick survey question. By a show of hands, how many first-time riders on the Winter Park Scenic Boat Tour? Okay, great. Me too. Dad jokes and bad jokes. Anyway, I've been here a long time. Now, in Winter Park, we have 4 things in abundance: historic homes, parks, gardens, and museums. And this place up here on the right checks all 4 of those boxes. It's the Alvin Pelagic Sculpture Garden and Museum. As we get just a little bit closer, you'll see there's sculptures all throughout the gardens, more than 200. Mr. Pelagic was a disabled immigrant. He had a very strong faith and a love of nature. So most of his statues reflect those 2 subjects. You can see that amazing crucifixion right there in the middle. But it's also one of the premier sites for social events. So weddings, receptions, corporate functions, especially this time of year, there's probably 2 or 3 every week they hold in the evenings. Now the larger ones, they host them in the backyard of the museum. The smaller events, they host them right on the other side of these trees in the historic house that's located on the property called the Capon House. Let's pull up and see the Capon here. Oh, you know what? Now that's coming up. I don't know if you guys are local or in the area this long, but they host the Winter Park Paint Out every year on April 19th through the 26th. It's the premier fundraiser for the museum. But during that week, admission to the grounds is free. But this is the Capon House right here. This little gray home with the white trim, 141 years old. It's one of the oldest homes in Winter Park. It functions daily as an admin office, but they use it for the smaller weddings and social events. But the fun fact with the Capon House is that it was built on the other shore. And in 2014, when it was in danger of being torn down, the community raised funds to move it from its original build spot to this lot donated by the Pelagic grounds. You can see they use it daily for admin offices. And when we come back on the other side, I'll explain how they got it from point A to B. I like to say the hardest way possible. But in front of us, this is what makes our chain of lakes so unique. These were naturally occurring creeks that were dug out and widened by the lumber industry in the late 1800s. They were floating logs through here over to a sawmill that was located on the next lake, Lake Virginia. Sometime in the mid-30s, they closed the sawmills down, and these canals have been used for recreation by locals and for tourism by our business ever since. But look how spectacular this looks coming in here. This is where you guys go, ooh. Oh, that is good energy. Let's try it out. Oh my goodness, y'all are rowdy. That is amazing. That's just going to get me fired up. So these are bromeliads all along that side right there. When those bloom, those are beautiful. And then coming up here on both the left and the right side, these just popped this week. This is Queen Anne's lace, this white fluffy flower. And florists use this in their arrangements. Now, our bridge up here, the water level is slightly elevated today. So yes, thank you. Just cut to the chase. Duck. Yes, please duck your heads and keep your hands inside. There are some sharp edges on these pipes we're about to go underneath. And I've got ponchos, but I don't have Band-Aids. Okay, actually I do. But I don't. Oh! Okay, let's see how this goes. So coming up here in this tree is a very unique fern called resurrection fern. Can I get an amen? Amen. Oh, that was weak. So it's too late now. So, it's green and brown. So it normally is in the brown stage, what they call restive. But after it rains in Winter Park, it turns green for about 6 to 24 hours, depending upon how hard it rained. So most of the trees here in Winter Park have resurrection fern on the top side. It's really pretty after. Oh my goodness, there's an alligator right here on the left side of the shore. A statue of an alligator.
Oh yeah.
Did you see the little tube in his mouth?
Yeah.
Do you know what he shoots out? Gatorade.
Gatorade.
Gatorade. Oh, it's so funny. Skipper Ned. I mean, Captain Ned. I passed my test, so I'm a captain now. That was the hardest thing I've done in 20 years was pass that stupid test. But anyway, Rollins College over here on the right, you can see their beautiful Knowles Chapel. This is built by Ralph Cram. He designed chapels all across Europe and the United States. This one is open to the public when school is in session. And if you look down, look how clear that water is. The greenery on the bottom is eelgrass, and it's a native vegetation that helps act as a filter to keep the lakes clean and clear. Yeah, some of those homes leaning to the more modern style of architecture. Eventually we're going to get to the other side of the lake and we'll see some homes by James Gamble Rogers. He's a more traditional architect, built from the 20s through the 70s in Winter Park, and some of his finest homes are on Lake Osceola. But speaking of fine homes, look at this one coming up on the left. There's a little canal right there that leads to another lake called Lake Mizell. And Lake Mizell forms the backside of the Genius Peninsula, and there's 4 big estates on it. The first one, the white one, is called the Martin Music Hall, and it was built in 1923, originally as the Winter Park Businessmen's Club, but sold by the wives after just a few years to a guy named Mr. Martin. And when he passed, he donated it to Rollins College, and that's when it got the name the Martin Music Hall. They used it to teach music out of. And this is my favorite part. During that time, if students did want to walk around from the main campus, the Little Rollins Marina had rowboats for its students, and you could row a boat to your music lesson at the Martin Hall. I love the thought of that. Now, sometime in the 70s, Rollins sold it. It's been in private ownership ever since. The original house is just that piece we see in the middle. They added the left and right wings about 8 years ago, bringing it to 10 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, and a 12-car garage. But my favorite part, being a water guy, is what they did outside. They built that berm, pulled up all the grass from the front backyards, and replaced it with AstroTurf. Now, the greatest threat to our freshwater lakes, the fertilizer on these yards. Every time it rains or they irrigate, it leaches into the lake and it causes explosive growth of algae. But if you have an AstroTurf backyard, no longer are you washing fertilizer into the lake every time it rains or you irrigate. So we love that house, but man, I really appreciate their forward thinking, trying to keep our lakes as clean and as clear as possible. Okay, I gotta tell you one more thing, but I gotta pull up. Fred's behind me. Look at these homes, these are amazing. What's that? I can't tell you that. We only talk about dead people and people that used to live here. But I got one more thing about this peninsula. These 4 homes, they sit on a north-south axis. Right in their front yard, due east, is Lake Mizell. So you know what that means? Every morning they get a sunrise on their front patio on Lake Mizell. Every afternoon, a sunset on their back patio over here on Lake Virginia. You know what the realtors call that setup? Location, location, location. Okay, I gotta tell you one more thing. There's so much to share. I've got way too much information. I had a paddleboard company here for 20 years, so I went around and around these lakes. I know a lot of these people and stuff I can't tell you. So there's so much I want to share as I'm trying to give you the good stuff. Like this spot here is the only undeveloped lakefront lot in Winter Park, and it's called the Genius Reserve. In this little home lived the McKeans, Jeanette and Hugh. Now, she was the daughter of Dr. Genius that originally owned this whole plot, and her husband Hugh would become the 10th president of Rollins College. But what the McKeans are most known for is introducing the peacocks to Winter Park, and eventually they donated this big chunk of land to become the Genius Reserve. So this is where the Winter Park peacocks live. Now, it doesn't function like a pen. Nothing holds them in there. They can wander wherever they want, but most of them have their nest here, and this is where they roost every night. But I love the fact that this is how Winter Park looked 80 years ago, and thanks to it being a reserve, this is how it's going to look 80 years from now, and indefinitely from that. But this is the Genius Reserve. They do open it up once a year. May 26th, Track Shack puts on an event that's called Run for the Trees, and they lay out a 5K course through here, and all the participants, they call it a trophy-less run, but all the participants receive a tree sapling. So yeah, that is Run for the Trees. It's May 26th, I think, this year. I'll be winning that. Okay, one more thing. So these are the buoys for the Rollins water ski team. And even though Rollins is a small school in comparison to student size, they compete in Division I in water skiing. So they do 3 events: slalom, trim, and jump. So we're going to go check out their campus here. You a water skier? Okay. Yeah. This is worth sharing, you know, because you guys are my favorite group of the day. Here's a little, I was going to say Skipper Ned, Captain Ned pro tip. If you see those 2 little square top roofs in the distance, that is the Alphon Hotel. It's a 4-star boutique hotel that's owned by Rollins College. A unique arrangements. The profits from the hotel come back to the financial aid program at Rollins College. About 85% of the students at Rollins receive financial aid of some kind. So it's an important cog in that financial wheel. But what makes it special, it's the only hotel in the United States that serves as an extension of a museum. So that means it has its own art gallery and it's open to the public. So if you're looking for something to do, check out the Alphon Inn right across the street from Rollins College. Okay, pro tip 1. We got more. gorgeous day. I just want to stop here. It takes up about 80% of this northern shore of Lake Virginia. Now, this is one of the oldest schools in Florida. It was established in 1885. It's always been relatively small, though, in terms of enrollment. Today, around 2,000 undergraduates and about 1,000 graduate students. That's a beautiful campus. There's the jump. No, we're not going off that jump. Okay, let's go. I'm just kidding. He's like the devil on my shoulder over here. Yeah. Well, on this, I think it's a 90. Yeah. We
Kano
upgraded a couple years ago.
It must be.
Yeah, they got a bar across it. Oh, darn. So, Rollins, if you look in front of us where these people are, maybe you can pick out that there's a walking trail here. This is the old dinky rail line that came in to service the sawmill. When they closed the sawmill down, the city pulled up the railroad tracks and they made a public walking trail there. Pro tip number 2. This trail is open to the public, there's no charge for it, and there's free parking over at Dinky Dock Park. Along the way, there's places to sit underneath these beautiful bald cypress trees, and there's some people from my last tour that I told them to go walk that trail. How you doing? They were actually listening that whole time. That's amazing. But I was going to say they have some fair weather gazebos on either end of it, and I think it's maybe just over 3/4 of a mile in distance, so back and forth about 1.5 miles or so. But they have gazebos on either end in case you were to get caught out in the weather. And where these people are stopping, this, I don't know how late you guys are in town, but that's like a secret spot for Winter Park sunsets. The locals love to come right there and catch a Winter Park sunset right there to the west there. But on the other side of the cypress trees, those newer buildings, those are student dormitories. And with your room, board, and tuition, Rollins is currently about $82,000 a year. I know it's a lot. They're mostly known as a liberal arts school. They do specialize in international business, and they have a master's of business program in the evening that's very popular with local professionals. But Rollins is also called the Harvard of the South, and it's because of their long storied tradition in competitive sailing and crewing. They've had teams of both sports since 1907, and they used to travel internationally to compete. Today, they host regattas on this lake for sailing and on Lake Maitland for crewing. But if you notice, they also have their ski boat up here. And as I mentioned earlier, in water skiing, they compete in Division 1. Now, the boat they use is called a ski nautique, and it's made by Correct Craft here in Orlando. The interesting tie-in is that company was started by Captain Walt Balloon back in 1922, and then in 1938 he started the Winter Park Boat Tour, and he made the first boat tours at the Correct Craft factory. So pretty neat. They've been around 100 years. They're celebrating 100 years, or 1926 for them, 1938 for us, and we're celebrating 88 years. But both started by Captain Walt Balloon. Now, he was also the first boat builder that was successful to put glass in the bottom of boats, and he made all of the Silver Springs glass bottom boats. He also built boats for the Navy during World War II. But right in front of these sailboats is the Rollins Museum of Art. This building, the cafeteria, which was right behind the pool, and the chapel are all open to the public when school is in session. You went where? You did? Oh, good. I'm glad you guys went. Yeah. Yeah, it's free. Now, on a different timeline, when I was doing the paddleboarding thing, one day my phone rang and it was Rollins College. and they asked me if I was interested in teaching a PE class. And of course I said yes. So for 10 years, I taught PEA 101 at Rollins College, which was paddleboarding. And I'll tell you what, every single class, I had 22 students. They did not skip paddleboarding, but a lot of fun times out here with that group. Yeah. I love going to work. I still do, yeah. This is just less labor intensive. It's still people, although not Rollins students, but that's okay. But that was the great part of doing the paddleboarding, was just meeting people from all over the place and just sharing some kind of, shared experience. But this is one of my favorite spots. This is where the sawmill was, and this place was a hub of activity. Logs coming in from the canal, being processed at the sawmill, and then loaded onto the rail cars and shipped out. Now, they called the rail line dinky because it was an undersized railroad. Dinky rail line was only supposed to be used for passenger travel, but they used it to haul logs. So there are tons of stories of Dinky getting stuck on the tracks trying to leave the sawmill. Now, the debate seems to be whether the carts were overloaded or the Rollins students were notorious for soaping the rails, and that would cause the wheels to spin. Dinky rail line would lose traction and it would get stuck on the tracks. Now, the stories go the conductor would ask the passengers and the engineers to get out and push to get it going again. But apparently that was a pretty common occurrence during the days of the Dinky rail line. When they closed the mill down, the Rotary Club bought the property, converted it to a park, and then gave it back to the city. There's a fishing dock, a swimming area, and launches for motorized and non-motorized vessels. These are public lakes, so anybody with a boat can launch and go through any of the 7 lakes. Now, these are spring-fed waters, so normally the quality is amazing, but Winter Park, very proactive. They test it every Friday to make sure that it's safe for weekend visitors and swimmers. And if there's any issue, they can flip those big green signs to say closed. Now, the only time I've really seen them have to do that is after hurricanes, when there's just a ton of runoff that comes into the lake and then the levels get skewed for a while. But there's never been a gator attack or a gator fatality on the Winter Park chain of lakes. That last building is the freshman dorm. It's not near as fancy as those newer dormitories, but they do have a pretty fun little dock out back. Where the blue chairs are, it's listed on the Rollins map as the study dock. But I have never seen a book out there in my life. But the home next to it, behind the trees, is the Rollins President's Residence. So one of the benefits of being the Rollins president is that home comes with your package during your tenure at the school. Rollins just got a new president. It was summer of last year. She came from Baylor University. Do we have time? Okay, so when I was teaching my class, I did not know my students' names. They just signed in, and so I would say 22, and we were good to go. So I had no idea until we were coming by. We got in front of the president. Oh, they're sitting out front. Maybe I shouldn't tell this story. The new president's out there. Okay, I gotta tell you, since I started it. So we're going by with the group of 22, and the little girl next to me in front turns and announces to everybody, "Hey guys, my folks are out of town this week. Who wants to see the house?" Now, before I could say, "No, let's not do that," I had no idea the president's daughter was in my class. I didn't know the names. Before I could recover, all the kids were like, "Yeah," and they pulled up on that shore and ran into the president's house. Now, they're good kids. They didn't steal or break anything, but I was nervous as heck just trying to get them out of there before someone came home. But anyway, lots of fun times. I gotta make sure no one's sitting on that dock when I tell that story. Anyway, lots of fun times at Rollins College. I was talking about the trees. This is a live oak right here, one of the 3 species that they were lumbering. You can see all of the Spanish moss hanging off of this tree, the gray stuff. It's neither Spanish nor moss, but it is an air plant, so it's relatively harmless to the tree, although it is usually loaded with chiggers. Yeah, so you never want to touch or handle that Spanish moss unless it's been fumigated. You are so good at that. You look at us. So definitely an oldie but a goodie there. Now the pine trees are far and few between. They drained them of the sap to make turpentine, and then they clear cut them for the lumber. So the pine trees are pretty hard pressed to find. But the cypress trees are numerous. We're going by a couple right here on the left. And on the right side, if you've never seen them before, the cypress knees are their above ground root system. These are protected as well. You can't cut down cypress trees or their root system. The cypress knees. Cypress knees. You know, I'm so old that when I was growing up as a kid, the good old boys would cut those things and turn them into all kind of roadside oddities for sale, like door stops and picture frames and bookends. The problem is when you cut those knees, a lot of times you kill or damage the tree. So, all right, let's pull up here. Most of the boathouses out here, they look pretty similar, except for the obvious one over here on the right. And when I tell people that the original owner, Mr. Brewer, was a carriage builder, well, some people think maybe that boat dock has some carriage design influence in it. But whether it does or not, you can see there's a little plaque on it. Both the dock and the house are on the National Historic Registry. They were completed in 1923. Now, let's pull up here so we can actually see it. It is on the water. Oh, underwater, right? It does look like a little carriage, don't you think? I mean, the top of it, kind of. So the Brewer estate, you can see it back here, 8 bedrooms,